Hi, I'm Noel New, the songwriting therapist. I just wanted a free flow. And, this concept of came to me, a crisis in confidence. And how in the world right now, and individually we may be feeling this, that, there's a difference in how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world, kind of losing confidence. And, I've got some ideas on how to regain that. I've got some ideas on what causes that. I've got some ideas on how to, develop a sense of your own personal power so that you're not, caught in that. Because what happens is when we're caught in this crisis in our confidence, or a crisis of confidence, what happens is anxiety goes through the roof. And if anxiety goes through the roof and we try to deal with anxiety without really going all the way into the solutions of it, which I'll share in a minute, we can then create panic. And that panic is also exacerbated by, different forms of media. And so, for instance, news media outlets, different kinds of social media, people are focused on creating a fear base so that you continue to watch and stay in this sense of fight or flight. And that's where the anxiety is just ramped up. So how do we get to a deeper level of inner power and feeling good about ourselves and each other? Well, let's start with feeling confident in ourselves. And it came to me years ago, this statement, confidence is bred through humility. So what does that mean? And what do the words even mean? So this sense of confidence is feeling empowered, feeling sure of self. But as it says, as it came through me, bred through humility. Confidence is bred through humility. That means it's born, it's developed, it's built, it's established through this sense of humility. So I'll take a few minutes to go through that. Before I do that, though, the whole point of this is to help you to ground yourself when you're feeling scared. How to create boundaries externally, but also internally, so that you can maintain focus and maintain a life that you want to live. And what happens when we get in a challenge, that all goes out the window, so to speak, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't like the feel of what is happening. And so in that discontentedness, in that feeling of uncertainty, we lose our sense of self. We can lose our core of who we are and our sense of power, our personal power. And what happens when we lose that, we end up living in a state of fear, and again, I'm going back to this energy of being in anxiety or fear or discontentedness or worry and judging others and resenting and blaming and all this kind of stuff. And the way that we settle back into it is we face it. And for more on that, just so you know, I'm creating a course called Face Your Fears, where we establish the term FACE: forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, and empathy. And so please continue following, or if you haven't followed yet, hit follow and you'll learn more about going deeper into how to face your fears. So going back to this crisis in confidence, so we have this fear up, right? And we want to get back to our certainty of power, our personal power of confidence. What we need to know is that we have to get through back humbled, because the challenge or the crisis is going to give us this leveling off or this humility. Now, a quick little thing on humility. There's another word that's very similar to humility, And a lot of us confuse it. And I did at one point confuse it, and it's called humiliation. So growing up, my biggest fear was being humiliated, was being rejected, humiliated by bullies, by, whatever the case may be, definitely in junior high and high school. I was definitely scared half to death of that, and always hypervigilant not to be humiliated. My biggest fear was to be humiliated. So later on, when I heard the word humility, I just thought it was the same thing. And I'm like, that's terrible. As a matter of fact, an old friend of mine once told me, he's like, no, you're a humble guy. And this was in high school, and I was like, is that an insult? He's like, no, I mean that as a compliment. I didn't understand. But now I do. Because humility, it was given to me years later, humility is I'm no better than and I'm no worse than any other person on this planet. So when we are humbled, we're either leveled down when we think we're better than, whether we do it through judgment or, blame or, I'm better than, and again, we can do that in our social media especially. I'm humbled down. I'm leveled back. I'm no better than anybody. We could also be leveled up. If I feel like I'm the worst human being, I made a mistake and it's terrible, and I can't get, I can never forgive myself, right? And I'm blaming myself, and I'm in these fear-based states of emotion, then humility levels me up. I'm no worse than any other human being. So when I do something good, I'm doing a good thing. When I do something bad, I'm doing a bad thing. But humility is I'm no worse than and no less than any other human, any other being on this planet. Where humiliation is an act of ego. It's an act of the energy of I have, been defeated. And I'm going to go on that word for a second. But before I do, I've been pushed down, humiliated, embarrassed. I just feel like small and useless and all these different things. A loser, right? And it's really a very potent energy that does not level us off. As a matter of fact, if I feel humiliated, more than likely I'm going to do the opposite of confidence, which is cockiness or arrogance, because humiliation lends to cockiness, because humiliation is I'm worse than everybody. So if I fight that, now I'm going to be arrogant and cocky and say, I'm better than this person, I'm better than you. And there is no groundedness in that. And so the opposite of confidence is cockiness, arrogance. And when I'm arrogant and cocky, there is no grounding. So then I'm scared and I'm acting out of fear, and thus I can be humiliated again, which is my biggest fear. So the grounding of humility, not humiliation, again, just a couple letters, but humility, being humbled, I am left with rising from the ashes, like the phoenix, and what does not kill me makes me stronger, and I gain this sense of personal power, this sense of gratitude that I've gone through it, this sense of connection with others that have supported and helped me, this sense of universal connection with source, whatever that means to you, spiritual connection, that I've been helped through it, and this confidence starts to blossom. So going back to the word defeat, there's defeat, to feel defeated, and there's loss. So thinking about it in sports, right? There's the winner and the loser. There's the victor and the defeated. They suffered a defeat. Sometimes they'll say they suffered a loss, but here's where I delineate between the two. Loss is what's going to happen in life. We are going to experience loss. And what happens is when we lose something, someone, some energy, we go through grief. And it's a natural form of human life. Loss is a natural form. Defeat is the energy of adding insult to injury, if you will. Adding the suffering to the pain. So whereas we have loss, we feel pain. We can grieve, we can grow, and we can let go and create the empowerment that comes through that. However, when we're defeated, we're suffering because we feel like a loser, right? So this whole point of shifting from the sense of defeat to the sense of loss. And I always said, this came to me years ago, nobody goes through life undefeated. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just not going to happen. We're all going to have a loss or two. I remember there was a boxer back in the olden days, you know, back in the, I guess in the 40s and the 50s. I think it was the 50s. Before my time, believe it or not. His name is Rocky Marciano. He went something like 49-0 or 40-something-0 and never lost. And, you know, wasn't beaten in the ring. He was undefeated. And then he died in a plane crash. And so, you know, not that that's necessarily being defeated, but he definitely lost. So the reality is, you know, that's kind of an extreme example, but nobody goes undefeated. You know, I remember seeing Mike Tyson when I was, you know, a teenager and literally undefeatable, and then beaten by this man that had nothing to lose, you know, was just literally had just lost his mother, was a good boxer, but, you know, nowhere near the level that Mike Tyson was. His name was Buster Douglas, beats him really soundly. And Mike Tyson was now defeated, and, you know, and really had to grow from that, which, you know, is an amazing journey. If you're interested, check out his journey and how he's developed himself. But my point is that we're all going to lose eventually. When we lose and embrace the sense of loss through grief, that's the humbling. And as we're humbled, we gain this sense of certainty of who we are, this confidence in who we are, and we can face any fear. And by the way, we face it through forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, and empathy, which acceptance is the key to grief. Once we go through the levels of grief, we get to this sense of acceptance, and we can walk through it with a new confidence. Anything. Anxiety will start to diminish. Our boundaries on who we choose to connect with and how will start to shift, and how we develop our lives so that we can feel more whole with who we are and feel this connection of ourselves, the power greater than ourselves and with others, this sense of who we truly are. We will live a life of freedom and fulfillment. And yeah, life will kick another challenge up. That's the way it is. You know what I mean? I just had one this week, you know, probably more than one, but one big one. And definitely kicked up a challenge. And so I just intuitively knew to go into, feel all the feelings of it, the fear, the blaming, the worry, the judgment, the resentment, all these different things, the fear of what's going to happen, what I can look like, how I'm going to feel, all this stuff, right? And allow myself to feel that, ground myself in the truth of what's really happening. Do my best, you know, be myself, do my best, let go of the rest. Ask for help when I needed to, receive help, you know, and then my own personal meditation and prayer of connecting with higher energies of source. And okay, whatever's happened outside is either changed or not, but internally I am more apt and prepared to deal with it and feel more confident as a result. So that's what I had for you today. Please comment, follow, express, whatever you need to do, because I'd love to engage with where you're having this challenge, and where you can, shore up your confidence to feel better about yourself and your life in the midst of a challenge or a crisis. And that's what we're here to do in Songwriting Wellness. And so much love to you today and always.